could I ask somebody to please call Cindy Turnley so that she can get into this meeting? She was supposed to call in, but does not have internet at the house. And I'd like to, we are 10 minutes behind, and I'd like to get this started. If somebody could reach out to Cindy with the login info, is anybody able to do that for us?
I can do it. Did you try to call her house and not get in, or?
I have not yet. I've been trying to let people in and text people.
Okay.
And this has been fun.
Yeah, I'm gonna mute myself.
Okay. All right. So in an effort to not hold us up for the entire evening, now that we're 10 minutes behind on, I'm not sure whose mistake this is, but a mistake nonetheless. So here we are, and I don't see Carol Hammond either.
Oh, boy. Cindy's phone is busy.
Sandy, what do we want to do about notes this evening?
I'll try to take notes.
Okay.
Hey, Cindy, I have her, Jean.
Okay.
I have Cindy. There's some mistake on the number, so I'm going to give you the number to call in.
All right. Okay, so here we are on the 19th of May, still living the COVID dream.
Sorry, Chris.
Yes.
I don't know what the number is to call in, because I have the wrong
Okay.
call-in number also.
Try this one, Patty. 1-929-205-6099. And then she's got to have the right meeting ID, I think.
We all have the wrong code and the wrong number. So it's 1-929. 205-6099. Are you trying to do it online? Okay, the meeting ID number is 829-364-407.
No, that's the old one.
Oh, that's the old one.
Nope, that's wrong.
I don't even.
Ask Dave Emery what number he called.
So I have an idea.
The one that starts 822 is the right one.
Yeah, 822-642-66004.
822-642.
Yep,
What were the other numbers?
66004.
66004. Yep. Okay. Hey, if that doesn't work, I'm at my office. You can come here and do it. Okay, bye.
Munson Hicks, for some reason, it won't let him in either.
Yeah, and Sandra Rulwich, our chair of the Solid Waste Committee, is not able to get in either.
Munson Hicks' name is on the list as being in.
Munson, are you there?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, Patty.
I'm
Yes.
on mute, and it's still, my voice is still coming through. There's something really messed up about this.
I'm wondering if
Well, be
it,
quiet then.
I can't if I'm giving phone numbers.
oh, Michael Root can't get in either.
He's been in.
And can someone send out via email the new link?
It just went out, Bob.
But by email?
Yep.
And Facebook.
Okay. Did it have Sandra on it and Munson?
It was the same email that Tim, I don't know why I'm yelling. It was the same
Right.
email that Tim sent out originally for this meeting. So Michael put the new link in there and sent it out. So the 48 people that are on that email should have had it now.
All right. There it is.
So Bob, we've got a couple of things that we can roll into before. So if you want to try and we can mute you and you can try and get those people in. I will continue to watch this screen and let people in as they get here. If everybody's all right with that. So, all right, we are 15 minutes behind. I apologize for the technical difficulties. I wish that I had some knowledge as to why this happened, but I do not. So here we are. Additions to the agenda. I absolutely hate to even think of adding anything to this agenda, but I believe that we have a few things that do need to go on there. One of them is going to be accepting with, obviously with regrets, the resignation of Patty O'Donnell.
Do you have any more or?
I'm trying to, I was
Okay.
going to update, that's there. We have the Memorial Day email that was sent out that we need to discuss. And I think that's,
Well, so moved.
can I get a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Okay. All right, so guests, we have quite a few guests tonight because we've invited the Planning Commission. We also have some representation from the Pay As You Throw here. At some point, we will have Cindy here.
I'm here.
Cindy is here, okay? And so we've got some people that we can't see for press reasons. Could we please get whoever is at the 508-509 number?
That would be me.
Chief, is that you?
No, it's Garino.
Oh, okay. All right. And then the 579-9931, is that you, Chief?
Yep, that's me.
All right. And then we have Cindy and we have Rich and Jessica is here. All right. Chair's remarks. This is embarrassing and I'll just leave it at that. That's my remarks for the evening. Guests have been acknowledged. So Mark Snow couldn't join us tonight. Chief, why don't you go ahead and give us your COVID-19 update and we will get you out of here unless you want to stay for all the fun.
Okay. Well, I apologize for not being able to get in and see everyone, but I'll make this quick. As you know, Mark is not available. He's out of the state right now. But where we are right now is it's been obviously a taxing. It's 2 months that we're now into this. So we're starting the third month. And I know it's been tough, and especially trying to do meetings like this. However, Vermont continues to add cases to the COVID, but it's adding cases, but we are in the top 3 of the nation that has slowed the thing down, slowing things down. So per capita, we're doing extremely well. As you all know, you participate and watch the governor on weekly and sometimes daily changes, and he continues to loosen up a little bit on some of the requirements. And as of today, there's 944 cases in the state of Vermont. There is only 3 in the hospital. There have been, however, unfortunately, 54 deaths. And the testing continues. It's more aggressive than ever. And it's 24,951 tests that have been done. They are doing pop-up test sites, and they're testing just about anybody that wants to be tested. And business-wise, allowed businesses to come back. However, he extended the stay at home until June 15th, with slowly still opening things. And they will continue that way unless our numbers decline. There is not a vaccine as of yet. The prediction is, and hopefully is by the end of the year, they hope that they'll have something. So having said that, we still need to exercise, and we need to be diligent about the social distancing, the hand washing, and face covering. And I know face coverings in some cases are controversial. The governor has not ordered that people going into different places have to wear them. However, there are employees in stores that are mandatory face coverings. So having said that, please keep your guard up, and as long as we keep getting better, the whole thing will be going that way. One of the important things is
Hi, Carol.
food distribution site, and this is in addition to the school site. And there will be more details coming from that very shortly, and this will be open to the public, and there'll be a site identified in Brattleboro. Once we know more about that, we certainly will offer to Vernon residents, if they can't get it, that we could probably find some volunteers or someone to help them with that. The sheriff's in Monday's reports, the sheriff's department reports that countywide excessive speeds and aggressive driving continues to be a problem. However, the criminal and civil activity hasn't taken a spike and gone anywhere. Vernon Green is still holding their own. However, they've ordered more PPE, and depending on the testing, we may have to help them out with some PPE as they go on. The food pantry, the weekly pickup, the Pastor Burks is okay with that. Things are good. You probably know that the town clerk's office is still operating in the with appointment, and I understand from Tim that shields have been set up and done. We haven't had a vast request for assistance from anyone, so we still have a list of volunteers that we can call on. So for that, that's it in a nutshell. Stay tuned Friday at 11 o'clock. The governor will be doing another press release. And so that's where I'm at. I'm open to any questions. I know Seth's on, and recreation area is one of the tougher ones. Campgrounds are open up, but in Seth's case, he's got some work ahead of him to figure out how to do that. And we certainly are on board to assist with anything that we may be able to help him with that. And I know he'll probably give you a report later. So that's where I am, Mr. Chairman. I can take questions or whatever you wish.
Does anybody have any questions for Chief Emery?
No.
Good. Seeing none, Chief, I wish to thank you for attending again this evening and all of your useful information. We appreciate you. Have a wonderful evening, sir.
All righty then. I'll probably hang on the line and listen for a little while.
You need to get a life, sir, but we will welcome you to stay.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I had trouble getting in, so I just joined you. And I wanted to make an agenda addition.
Oh, we're past that. Sorry. No, go ahead.
Yeah, I know. Can I do that?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. It's about bringing in my third lister so that we can have a meeting.
Okay. I'll make a motion that we add that for Carol. Can I get a second, please?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, perfect. You're all set, Carol.
Thank you.
Carol, I believe let's see, David Emery is one of the ones that you can't see. Cindy Turnley is one that you can't see. Tom Garino is one that you can't see, and I believe everybody else you know who is
Okay.
here. With the exception of Natalia also has her husband, Greg, joining us. Boyfriend and husband, I'm not sure, whatever.
Hello.
Partner is here. How's that?
Sounds good.
All right. So up next, we will move into Cindy. We had some questions over the course of this paying staff during this COVID thing, and the town's use of unemployment came up, and it turns out that Vernon does things a little different, and we have our own personal unemployment fund in town. And I guess, first of all, Cindy, I don't have a clear understanding of how or why we do it that way. And I think that's why you're here, to try and bring us up to speed on how our town's unemployment would work should it need to be used.
Okay, we have an unemployment fund. The town many years ago voted not to have unemployment insurance, but rather to have a fund available. How that works is when an employee is laid off or terminated, they apply for unemployment. If it's state approved, the state pays the unemployment, and then we are billed on a quarterly basis, and we have to refund the state the full amount of what the employee was paid. It comes out of a special fund that was set up many years ago. Currently, there's $21,954.59 in that fund.
I'm sorry, there was how much?
$21,954.59.
So if if an employee claims unemployment, the state pays that out and then we reimburse the state, is that what you said?
That is correct.
Is there a reason that we went this way?
Well, I believe at that time, they felt that that was cheaper than paying for unemployment insurance because we didn't have a real large turnover in employees. So instead of paying for insurance, they decided that it would be cheaper just to pay it on as needed basis. And in the years that I've been with the town, we haven't had a lot of unemployment. I mean, we do, but we don't have a lot of it. And I guess at that time when they made that, the select board back then made that decision, they felt it was cheaper than paying for an insurance that we might not use.
So, and I think where we started to question this was that if we had not paid the employees through this COVID pandemic and they had chosen to collect unemployment, and then we had to reimburse the state, would we have stood before the town at town meeting next year and asked them to replenish that account?
Yes, we would.
So truthfully, the way that we chose to pay the employees during this ended up being less of a burden on taxpayers than if we had allowed them to collect unemployment and ask for that account to be reimbursed. Is that correct?
That is correct. That's correct. Because we paid them with funds that were already in our budgets. That we are not paying them anything that they would not have received had they been working. If they had gone for unemployment, then we would have had to replenish that fund.
Okay. Can I ask, in your professional and educated opinion, do you think that this is the way that the town of Vernon should continue to do this going forward?
I do. And I might add that some of the employees that are currently not being paid because the school is closed. Once we reach the date that school would have been closed, they began using their employee benefits. So once again, I point out that they would not, there's no funds being used that hadn't already been in place had everything been normal and we didn't have this pandemic.
Okay. All right. Jeff, do you have any questions?
I guess I'm a little surprised that this is even an option. I assume that municipalities can do this while private business can't.
That is,
You might,
there are other municipalities that are doing this, yes.
okay.
There are companies that do it too, Jeff. When you're self-employed, I mean, when you employ people, you can cover yourself. The reason why it was done years ago is at the time, and it still is, unemployment insurance was extremely expensive. And for the handful of employees that we had, it was actually cheaper to build the fund and handle it that way and to pay all of those years of the unemployment insurance.
So, Patty, so any private business can opt to not pay unemployment insurance to the state.
They have to be very big businesses, and it's got to be set up legally and so forth. But there are businesses that are self-funded.
Michael, any questions?
No, sir.
Sandy?
No.
Sandy Harris, where'd you go? There you are. Do you have any questions, Sandy?
No, I just wonder why we have to pay unemployment based on what they earn elsewhere.
We pay our portion. We
So
don't
some-
pay what they get from that. We don't pay what they get elsewhere. We just pay our portion of their total revenue that they would, or their total earnings. So if someone earned $30,000 and our portion of it was $10,000, we would pay our portion of it. We wouldn't pay the entire thing.
No, but if someone gets a stipend and then they get laid off from their job elsewhere, why are we paying unemployment?
I questioned that, and they told me we do have a situation where that occurs, and they told me that because the stipend is part of the person's yearly income, it has to be included, and we have to, and our percentage of what his yearly income is our portion of his unemployment.
So should we be deducting that from his stipend?
I told them that we paid the stipend still, and they said it does not matter. That it's still, that our portion is what we have to pay based on the whole amount that the person would have received in a year. And so we have done that, and it's been questioned. I questioned on more than one occasion and was told the same thing, that because the stipend is a part of their annual income, that we have to pay our portion even though we're still paying the stipend out to that person.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Jean, anything?
Nope, all set.
Okay. Cindy, I don't, well, Bob, where are you? Bob Spencer, are you going to need to rely on Cindy at all for the pay-as-you-throw portion of this, or are we good to say goodnight to Cindy?
I think we're good. Cindy has been so helpful. Just want you to know. Thank you, Cindy.
Oh, thank you.
All right. Any other questions for the treasurer? Seeing no hands, Cindy, have a great night. Thank you for joining us.
Okay, thank you very much. Have a good night.
You too.
You too.
All right. And Carol, just so you know, Mike Renaud has joined us as well.
Okay.
All right. Next we have.
Can you hear me?
Who's talking to me?
Sorry, this is Munson.
Munson, yep.
Came in a
Okay.
different way.
All right, so Munson is here as well.
Okay.
And Chris, we now have Sandra Rulewich,
Yes.
Chair of
Yep.
the Solid Waste Committee. Thank you, Sandra. You got in too.
All right. We should start having more meetings like this. This is even more complicated than just having the 5 of us in a meeting together.
A lot more complicated.
All right. Next, we have an update from our recreation director, Mr. Deyo. The floor is yours.
Why, thank you.
For the screen, I suppose.
I'll take it for a few minutes. How's that? I guess what I'll start with is everybody is thankful and hearing from the governor that restrictions are being lifted and we're being permitted to, open up and do certain things. That being said, it's not quite as simple as just saying, okay, yep, you can open that today, or you can do this today. Each time restrictions are lifted, there's a great deal of guidelines that we are required to follow in order to do so. So something as simple as opening the tennis courts or something for us is tough because of where they're located. Opening the basketball courts is challenging for us because we're not supposed to allow any contact games. Policing that is a challenging thing. So for us as a rec department, what we have chosen to do right now is to hold true and not have a partial opening. Just the restrictions required for that are really challenging. So everything is still closed with the exception of green space. People are more than welcome to use the baseball field to hit golf balls across the street. We encourage them to do that, get out and do something. But the actual park, the playground area is not permitted for use. That's still restricted. Tennis courts are still locked, and we have not opened our basketball courts either. So we're hopeful that will all change very shortly, and we can have a full opening and let people get back to doing some of the things that they enjoy doing. Well, that's where we are on the ground. As far as one of the things you guys may have heard is that the governor has allowed for summer camps to open, day camps. And that sounds great. Awesome. Let's open up our day camp. Let's make it happen. Well, again, not that simple. There's a great deal of guidelines and restrictions in place to do so. And understandably so, we understand that. For us, we met as a recreation board last night, and we would like to try to move forward with offering a camp for Vernon residents. In order to do so, normally we hire 3 staff members. It will require 3.5 if you can hire half a person. We need to do that in order to meet some of the cleaning standards required by the CDC, as well as some health screenings that will need to take place. Some other challenges, include you're allowed to have up to 25 people in one place for camp programs. We may be required to close the playground for public use during certain times during the day so that the day camp can use it because we'd exceed the 25 people in one location. There's just lots of different variables here that we're trying to work through. Financially speaking, it's a risk. There's just no doubt about it. In discussions last night, we're right on the cusp of being able to break even if enrollment is strong. I can't guarantee that it will be strong. I guess I'm looking for some input as to, we want to do this because we feel like the community needs it. Like I said, the financial aspect of it is a challenge. With Tom's help, we have applied for a restart grant or stipend from the state. We've reached out to North Star as well. Just looking for any additional help we can to try to make this and potentially possibly a pool opening possible this year with reduced revenue more than likely going to be happening. So I guess that's kind of where we're at right now. Questions?
Gene, what do you got?
Well, I agree, Seth. This is something that the community is really going to clamor for. I think that your camp usually is below the numbers that the governor is allowing anyways, right? Or you weren't going to increase it, or?
No, so in years past, we've accepted up to 25 campers a week plus staff. Last year, we averaged 18 campers a week plus staff. So what we would be permitted to do is, with the 4 staff members that we'll need to utilize, we would be able to take up to 21 campers per week.
Yeah.
And truthfully, I can't say, I've had probably 10 families reach out requesting camp information. So the need is certainly there and people would like to have it. But that being said, I can't promise that right now, going into a potential registration, that we would have 21. I can't promise that we would have 18. I just don't know.
Right, right.
Seth, is there a, when does your camps usually start?
June 22nd would be our start date. It runs 9 weeks.
So that's, what, 4 weeks away, roughly. Is there a way that you guys could do a kind of like a pre-sign up for interest purposes? Yeah, I know it's an extra step, but I'm just wondering if that gives you more of the knowledge that you're looking for as far as we're going to have between 18 and 21 as opposed to we have 10.
Right. The challenge with the timeline of that is obviously hiring summer staff in all that, in the 4-week window. I've talked with last year's staff and I have a pretty good idea of who plans to return, and maybe moving some people from different positions into other positions to fill them that are current staff members now, or were current staff members last summer. I can reach out to people. A pre-registration doesn't require them to actually pay a deposit and sign up, which is, I kind of have to have that concrete number. It's less than ideal, but until we have a deposit from somebody saying they're coming, it's just them saying, yeah, we'd like to come this summer. And we kind of ran into challenges with that in years past.
So,
Seth, I got a question.
Sure.
What's the minimum number of campers do you need to break even on this program?
Really about 18 to 19 a week, ideally, if we receive no other alternative funding. That's the break-even point. And again, some of it depends on scholarship requests as well. It could be, it could be 16, 17 campers could be feasible depending on scholarship requests. While we absolutely have a strong desire to break even, if it's close to breaking even and it provides a service that the community really needs, in our discussions with the rec board last night, we felt as if we had 15 a week, we feel like that's a real need for the community, and we felt like we would, as a department, be willing to try that.
So, I mean, can you require 15 committed campers? Otherwise, you just don't have the program?
And that's what we discussed last night. Yep, and that's our plan.
Okay. Yeah, I would say if you don't get a minimum commitment, it's not going to come close to break even.
Unless some of these alternative funding sources come in, that would also be a variable that we'll have to figure in.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't count. I wouldn't count on a guarantee of additional funding.
No, and we won't. We would, that decision, we would have to know in advance that we have that funding prior to making the decision. We wouldn't make it, based on the thought that we may receive funding.
Yeah, good. Okay.
So I guess, what is it that you need in order to make your decision to move forward?
I mean, ultimately it's a rec board decision. I guess just having a discussion with you guys, understanding that right now this is where we're at and this is what we're trying to do. We feel the community needs it, but wanting just people to understand that it's just not as simple as saying, yes, we can have summer camp this year and we're going to open it up. Just wanting people to understand that the guidelines involved are challenging, and we may not be able to meet that community need if the numbers are not there. And for us, that's really frustrating, because we feel like we've been able to meet the community's needs time and again, and not being able to potentially do that is not something we're happy with.
And I certainly respect your feelings on this, Seth. I know that this whole entire thing has been borderline heartbreaking for you. So, and anybody that's on with us right now that does not know, Jason is with us. Jason is new to the rec board and also, I believe, the chair of the rec board. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. So There's Jason, everybody. All right. Sandy, do you have any questions or comments for Seth?
No, I just want to commend him for the way he's taken hold of this and all the hard work he's done. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Michael, do you have anything?
No, I do not.
And Seth, any update on the fundraiser that is going on currently?
We've had 18 orders, $409.28 that the town will receive out of those 18 orders. In the first window, there's a second window if people would like to purchase. That is currently open, so it's still there. By all means, check it out. I think the shirts will look nice.
And if you call Melissa real nice, like, she'll make you a hat too.
I somehow I knew that was coming.
Perfect.
And just to give a quick update on the or lack thereof on the pool, I'm sure people have questions about that. We really don't have any more information on the pool right now. The rec board has had discussions as to ideas if we are permitted to open and what that might look like. If there's a restriction on the number of people that are able to use the pool, you know, just kind of what that would look like. You know, whether or not we're open for smaller windows that allow for cleaning to take place in between. You know, if we are restricted to a certain number of people, you know, the pool being for Vernon residents only this summer is certainly a very realistic possibility. You know, if we are open for, like I said, windows, say 2 3-hour windows during the day, if you attend 1 3-hour opening, you wouldn't be permitted to attend the other, so that way as many people could use it. You know, paying by the day as opposed to season passes, just different things that we've looked at in an effort to be able to open if it's a healthy thing to do.
Seth, Jason, I appreciate the work that you both have put into this for sure, and the rest of the rec board for that matter. I know that all of you have kids the same way that most of us here do. And it sucks to keep answering that question to your kids. When can we go to the pool? I want to go play basketball. I want to go do this. So I know it's been hard on you guys, and we appreciate the hard work that you've put into this. So
You get another question for you, Seth.
Sure.
What's the lead time that, in other words, if the decision was made to open the pool, how long would it take to open the pool from that decision?
We need about 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
Yeah. And we're doing some steps now to try to get some things done now that we maybe wouldn't necessarily do right now, but we're going to get there. We're going to get the next, you know, we'll start power washing things. And we're not going to paint it now because if we are not permitted to open, you know, $2,100 worth of paint will have to be ordered again just from fading and cracking and everything that will take place over, you know, over the year now next summer. So the paint is on site.
So there are certain fixed costs, obviously, to open the pool.
Sure.
I mean, it's going to be, those costs are going to be regardless of if you have 100 kids or 1 kid participating in the pool.
Correct. Yep. More challenges.
Seth, as we get closer to crunch time there, as the governor continues to lift things, if you need some volunteer services, I'm a phone call away, sir. I know how to roll paint. So,
Thank you.
All right. Anything else for Seth? Anybody? Seeing nothing. Seth, I believe that's all we had you for today, right?
I believe so.
All right. Have a good night, sir.
Thank you much. Take care.
All right. Report from the Solid Waste and Recycling Committee. We received a bundle of papers today that had all of their happy information in there. So, Mr. Spencer or Sandy, the floor is yours.
Sandra Rulwich is our chair, and Munson Hicks is our vice chair, and we have a really great committee. Some are on right now, and I serve as an advisor since I work at Wyndham Solid Waste District. So, and Tom Garino, Tom's on, is an advisor. So I would ask Sandra and Munson to take it on.
Okay, shall I start, Munson?
Go ahead.
Okay. sorry to send a deluge of paper your way, but we have some nice tables with lots of numbers on them for those of you who like to look at the details. The first recommendation that we're making is that you accept that the Board of Selectmen accepts the contract with Triple T. Bob and Bob worked with them in order to get a good contract. It's in fact, it's the only contract that we have. It's the, you know, people are not beating down our door trying to deliver our trash. So, if not this, I don't know what. But it's it was carefully worked out, and you know, we hope it will look good to you. Another.
If I could just add that Michelle Pong and I did the request for proposals back in October and November and sent it out to more than 12 companies, national companies, local companies. We had only 2 bids and only 1 complete bid from Triple T. We had a very partial bid for just the municipal buildings from Good Enough Rubbish. And because we've had such a great many years of service from Triple T, and we all know the owner lives in Vernon, and some of the management lives in Vernon, and some of the drivers, we get excellent service. So we felt as a committee, the Solid Waste Committee, that this was a good bid, and the price went up. I know it's $24,000 a year, but we've been getting a very good deal, and I can speak to that from my experience with other communities. So it's about a 17% increase over our current amount. We don't have a written contract with Triple T. We never have for 20 years. And the select board last fall said, you know, this is one thing we could lock in by having a contract for 3 years with 2 renewal years, so 5 years, and we know what the prices will be. And we have the services of curbside trash collection for residents, curbside recycling for residents. We have the municipal buildings trash, municipal buildings recycling, and we also have the food waste organics drop off at the highway garage. So it basically continues the services that we all have come to appreciate.
Munson, would you like to add anything, sir?
Not really. We did. It was originally just a 3-year, and we talked with Bob and added the option, the 2 extension options, because we felt it would be a good time to do that, rather than, you know, we would have the option to negotiate with Triple T for the future. So that was part of what our committee did. I believe I'm right, Bob.
So looking, I'm sorry, Sandra, did you have something? Go ahead.
Oh, no, I just didn't want to go ahead until you'd had a chance to ask questions.
Well, I'm looking over the recommendations that you've sent us, and I think that that's where the majority of the questions are, because we've looked at those numbers over and over previously. So looking at this, I see that your suggestion is to reduce the cost of the small bags by, what is that, about $1.25 a roll, $1 a roll?
Yes.
$1.25.
Okay. And the large bags will stay the same. Did we look at potentially switching? I know that there's been discussion about switching to possibly using stickers or changing to bi-weekly pickup and things like that to help control these costs, to try and get the participation back up with that? Or were those any things that were looked at?
Well, as far as stickers go, there have been problems in other towns with it. I think there are still a couple of towns, not Bob, you know,
Westminster.
who use stickers, but there are problems with it, and we really didn't think that it would suit Vernon.
Do we know
We
if
also
the
did have
overhead is?
Sorry,
Go ahead,
we also did have discussion about, a brief discussion about switching to bi-weekly as had been done at the beginning. We found that it would not significantly change the cost because there's still basic overhead pricing that no matter when you pick it up. And if you remember, it was always a little confusing to remember which week you were in. And if you missed that week, then you've got your garbage there for a month sitting around. And that makes it less attractive, to my mind, for people as a whole. The idea is to make it as easy as possible, which otherwise it's one of the easiest things to do is not put out your trash. So we need to do everything we can to encourage it.
This is Bob. So Chris, we did look at stickers and talked to Triple T, who would have to enforce it with their drivers, and it's really problematic.
How is it any more problematic than enforcing a green bag versus a sticker that's on a bag? And I don't mean to ask the question that way, but I mean, you're paying attention to one thing versus another. And the only other reason that I had questioned the stickers is I was curious if the overhead was lower on those than having pallets and pallets of bags that sit out throughout different weather patterns. And then we get the complaints from the residents that the bags are of poor quality. They rip, they break, all of these happen. And I'm wondering if that has something to do with the lack of temperature control that we're storing those in.
Well, I would say that we can still evaluate stickers, but to implement something soon, we decided to stay with the current bags because we have $100,000 of revenue inventory already. And to switch right now, we would forego that revenue. So it is possible, and I could bring in the town of Westminster's manager, Russ Hodgkins. He's offered to meet with us, but given our mandate to deal with this now, we just said it's not really a very good option.
But would we be able to revisit that after signing a contract with Triple T, or would we be?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, we included contract language to address changes in the fee structure.
Okay.
So we included that. Yeah, I think it's possible to figure out a less expensive way, but there are some downsides which we can discuss once we have more time.
And then I see that Guilford Country Store is the only one that is currently receiving a discount. Do we know what that discount is?
Yes, it's 12.50.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Yep. So if we were to roll that out to the other places that carry these bags, what would that do as far as your deficit goes?
Well, we can talk about deficit later. The cost of that discount is roughly 5 cents a bag.
Okay. All right.
So it's essentially negligible.
Okay.
And it affords them a chance to be positive about selling. One of the reasons that Guilford Country Store originally got it was because they were using up a fair amount of space, and they weren't getting anything for it, and the anticipated traffic was not enough to cover the cost.
Okay. And would, so the suggestion here is to provide that to everybody in fairness. So would that include the clerk's office as well as the recreation department, or would that just be the stores?
No, it's the private sellers.
Okay. All right, and then I'll just cut to the chase here with you guys asking for the $2,000 to eliminate the shortage. I still 100% disagree with the claim that that program started negatively. You guys, when the pay-as-you-throw switched out of the solid waste, you were transferred over the inventory that had been purchased out of that previous account. Understanding that immediately you guys had to go out, and I apologize, I know most of you were not on the board at that time. But then the pay-as-you-throw committee had to immediately go out, purchase large bags, which left us with an overabundance of small bags because people were not purchasing those. So essentially that inventory came over and that was your startup cost. And now this has gone on for 2 years that we've been discussing this deficit. And I'm not sure how that deficit is considered to be from lack of a startup cost. Because you got free inventory out of it. That was your startup money.
Bob Munson, would you like to?
Well, I think that it's an accounting function, Chris, and Cindy, who's obviously not here, was involved with that. And I really can't comment on how the town decided to allocate the funds for that. So we as a committee said, you know, it'd be nice to start out with a zero balance so we can truly understand if the program is paying for itself. And it's very close. So it's not a serious deficit at all. It's reduced. And if the select board would want to just leave things as they are now, I think within a year or two, we'll probably zero it out. But we thought as a committee, it'd be nice to start out with a zero, and you apparently have some discretionary funds. And we offered in our recommendations as a committee to pay that back. So we thought it was a good suggestion for you to consider.
It's also, if I can just throw in another thing. One of the problems we keep having at town meeting is that quote, which I call a quote unquote deficit, sits there. And everybody who looks at it thinks that the program is not paying for itself because there's a deficit that used to be $8,000 and now is about $2,000. And so you have to keep talking about why is this not paying for itself, when in fact it is. It's not going a lot, but it would take away that issue, which really isn't an issue, it's an accounting thing. So we would start on a firm footing and be able to explain, okay, here, we are actually making $4,000 a year on this, as opposed to losing $2,000. So it's partly, I mean, we can live with slowly paying down a $2,000 deficit, but if you want to take away the non-issue of everybody sitting saying, well, it keeps losing money, then go ahead and you can explain it. There's no requirement by the state that the pay-as-you-throw be self-sustaining, and there's no requirement by the state that the town can't run a deficit in recycling if it so chooses. It just seemed to us that it would be a good idea to, with a new contract, setting off with a clean slate, and then we would be really able to see what the true costs are, rather than having to adjust to this quote unquote $2,000.
And I agree that we don't want anything to have a deficit, but since those two committees or one switched into the other and handed that inventory over, there hasn't been a clear inventory that's been counted. So there is no way to say that that program is not operating at a loss and that it is 100% due to the purchasing and the inventory. There's no way to know that because this program was not taken care of from the beginning.
Consequently, why don't we start anew?
I'm sorry?
Why don't we start anew at zero, at zero death, at no deaths?
So
Why do we want to fight those battles over and over again when they are really non-existent battles?
So can I ask what the bag sales are this year compared to last year? And I'm trying to look on your spreadsheet here.
It's on the A chart with the green strip across the top.
Okay.
And there's a column that tells you how many cases were sold every year.
Okay. So bag sales are down this year?
They've gone down every year throughout the life of the program. The large bags, you can see every year, there are fewer cases sold. It's also true with the smaller bags. The price really dropped when it was raised to $13.75. It had been $12.50 for several years. And it, was kind of, not exactly the same every year, but it wasn't dropping. But then when you raised the price, bottom fell out.
So bag sales are going down.
Yes.
Which tipping fees and all of our costs for disposal do not go down.
They're going up.
Sales, I'm sorry?
They're going up.
They're going up, and the bag sales are going down, which is exactly my point. This program is going to fail somewhere in the near future, is it not? If the bag sales go down and the costs keep going up, there's going to be a deficit. Whether the select board says, here's $2,000 to put you at even, somewhere over the next couple of years, the deficit is going to return because the sales are going down and the costs go up every year. This program still doesn't work in my mind. And unless you guys can explain to me how it works, I'm really confused.
Can I say something?
Please.
For when that program started, it was kind of mandated or whatever that you could not use taxpayer money.
You're right, Gene.
So that's where that
right.
initial deficit came, when the money had to come from somewhere to buy the bags, but it wasn't supposed to, so it needed to be replaced. So that put that fund in a negative right from the start between the bags, and everybody got a recycle bin, that was purchased out of that. So to keep everything accounted for properly, it started negative, which is to say, okay, we're saying we're not using the taxpayer money. So, if the town people want to keep having this, then in my mind, the cost and the expenses need to be monitored and the prices adjusted. They clearly, I felt at town meeting, did not want this to go away. And many said they would pretty much accept, increases if that's what it meant. So the monitoring of where that program stands, to me, is important so that you can get right on top of needing to adjust the prices. But it seemed pretty clear that the townspeople really wanted this to continue. So that's where your negative started from at the beginning.
That's a good summary, Gene, because I was on the committee with Heather and Peg Frost and Cheryl Franklin when we all put this together. We spent a lot of time on this, believe me. And if the select board doesn't want to zero it out, that's fine. I think it's going to eventually zero out because we've recommended lower small bag prices to increase revenue. And so far we have been.
Question about that then. So the idea is you're going to lower the price for the small bags and you're going to sell that many more? Make
That's
up for
the idea. That's the idea.
I hope that would be the case. I don't know.
Well, we don't know either. But we're just trying to not make a huge change. I mean, to be honest, Jeff and Chris, the select board did some knee-jerk price adjustments, and Gene, over the last 3 or 4 years, you know, up, down, and created some negative responses with people getting dumpsters and bailing out. So as a committee, we would like to start a more formal and educated approach.
Right. And keep closer track. I think that's where things kind of went off the rails.
No, they really did, because I mean, Cindy keeps track of things. We had Michelle doing her own spreadsheets. I mean, we didn't have a consistent overview of this.
Right.
So we're just, if the select board doesn't want to spend $2,000 to zero it out, I don't think that's a big deal.
Sandy, your thoughts? Sandy Harris?
I would like to make a motion that we spend the $2,000 to pay off the so-called deficit and see what happens. It's $2,000 is quite a bit of money, but I think in the long run, it's well worth the experiment.
I second that. I would like to give that committee a chance to start with a clean slate and really monitor how things go.
Michael, your thoughts, and keeping in mind that we do have a motion and a second on the table, please.
I like the idea of giving them a start, clean slate, but I don't think it should come from the taxpayers. It should come from the people that use the program.
All right, well, we have a motion and a second to give them $2,000 to wipe away their deficit. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay?
Nay.
No money.
No money. Sorry,
Nope.
guys. I just truthfully can't see how when the bag sales are going down and the costs are going up, even if it seems to me that we'd be chasing good money with bad if we gave you $2,000, because somewhere that that deficit has to reappear. Bob, I respect the fact that you're saying that it'll eat itself away, and I will happily sit here in 6 months and apologize to you and tell you that you were right.
Well, I don't know, Chris. I don't know. I don't know.
And that's the issue. I don't know, and you don't know.
Right.
So, and we're both approaching it from opposite sides, and neither of us know. So
we're as a committee, we're fine with it. It doesn't really matter to us. We'll just keep doing our promotion and education, which we haven't discussed.
Okay. So I guess that's there. What else would you guys like to discuss here?
The third item was our educational program that we're recommending. Is that right, Sandra? Was that the third thing?
It's actually number 5.
Yeah.
I suggest you go back to your recommendations.
It actually is. It is the next thing on the
Number 5.
Yeah. And we're recommending that the select board provide funding for us to print and mail an educational flyer. There's a whole lot that we need to communicate with the residents of the town about regarding several things with trash collection. On July 1st this year, the state rules are changing. Supposedly you can no longer throw food scraps away in your regular garbage. So we need to let people know that that's coming up. We need to let them know what their options are. They can compost at home. They can make use of the dumpsters by the town garage. People aren't used to doing that. Probably need a little coddling and maybe a little information, a little help. And the district is willing to give us assistance in printing the flyer and coming up with, what we're going to say, the information, and then, in an educational program ongoing, in cooperation with the district. They need to know they also need to know how successful the town has been in meeting the state guidelines, the recycling goal of at least 15%. We've done that, and we'd like everybody to know that. We can also let them know about the price changes with the bags, if you approve the changes. What else do we have here?
What is the cost of a townwide mailer? Anybody know off the top of their head? Okay.
Geez, we just did one at the
Yeah, I
start.
know.
Of,
It was less than $500, I think.
Yeah.
It's generally about 300 or so.
Yeah,
I think that's what
I
we said.
recall
That
it's
was
about
an
150 for printing and 150 for mailing.
And
I mean,
that was
that's
the regular letter size that we did, right? That blue
That one
sheet.
page, yeah.
Right, okay. Yeah,
So-
and I think we said not to exceed 500 on that.
So Wyndham Solid Waste District, where I work, we will do the formatting and drafting of the mailer, with the input from the Recycling Solid Waste Committee. So that'll save quite a bit of money. So what we'll need from the town, if you want to do this, Select Board, is basically the cost of the materials and the mailing. So 500 should be good.
Select Board, any comments?
the last mailing was printed between the clerk's office and the library. We printed them ourselves. So you're not needing to do, a professional printing. So it was really the cost of the paper and the mail postage.
All right, so we have the Solid Waste Committee asking us to approve the large bags staying at $21 a roll, the small bags being reduced to $12.50 a roll, and that we would approve the expenditure of up to or not to exceed $500 for a townwide mailer for educational purposes on the pay-as-you-throw program.
And one other thing, that the discount for private sales.
Yes. So, and I will add Munson's friendly amendment as far as extending the discount that is allotted to only the Guilford Country Store now to any other private vendors that are carrying our bags at a $12.50 per case discount. So there is 3 parts to that motion. Sandy, will you still move that?
I still move that, yes.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Ms. Carr. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. All right, we are all set with that. Any other information, questions, comments, fun stuff for the Solid Waste Committee? Seeing none. Ms. Carr.
If we spend less than the $500 allocated, can we put the rest?
Absolutely not, but good question.
Nice try.
All right, Ms. Carr, we're going to switch over to you for the bills and warrants. I'm sorry, I skipped over the approval of minutes from April 7th. Can I get a motion on those?
Thank you all for your time.
Thanks,
Thank
Munson.
you for yours. I can't find them. I've lost my papers.
Sandra, you're also all set. You're welcome to stay by all means, but we appreciate you joining us.
Thank you for hearing.
I have lost my minutes. Oh dear. Here they are.
Did you have any corrections on the April 7th meetings?
I was out
Minutes?
of town. I was out of town all day, did not read them. I'm sorry.
Okay.
So on the April 7th minutes, the amounts for the bills and warrants the amounts were not listed. It just listed the warrant numbers. We usually always have the actual dollar amounts in the minutes,
Right.
which I think it probably should have the dollar amounts in there. So we'll have to go back and see what those amounts really are.
Okay. So
I
should
can
we
get
table?
those from Cindy.
Yeah.
So we'll table this until next meeting?
Yep, sounds good.
Okay. So let's move on to bills and warrants. We are quite a ways into this meeting and still have quite a ways to go, so.
Yep. All righty. Mr. Chair, I request to approve payment of the following warrant. 23T accounts payable, $1,768,801.38. 18S payroll, $6,724.57. And 19S payroll, $7,356.39.
Second,
And yeah, that includes a payment to the school district.
That's why that 23T is so high?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So we have a motion that has been seconded by Ms. Harris. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, perfect. We need to reappoint our fire wardens. The recommendation from the state of Vermont is that the 3 that we have there would just be reappointed. I do not have any objection to that. That is Mr. Wielden, Mr. Jobin, and our fire chief that would be reappointed. All 3 of them are on board with that if the board so chooses.
so moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Ms. Carr to reappoint Todd Capon, John Wielden Jr., and Jesse Jobin as the town's fire wardens. Tom, I'm sorry, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Tom, if you're still with us?
I am.
All right. I believe there was some documentation that needed to be signed for that. If whenever that's ready, I'll come and sign that.
Yeah, the originals are on the table across from my desk. I will be back in the office Friday afternoon for the afternoon, Chris, if you want to stop in.
Okay. All right.
It looks like there is space for 5 signatures.
Oh, is there?
Yeah.
Shows how far I read onto that, huh?
Well, I also had, when this came out, responded back saying that hopefully the contact information was checked, because like all the numbers for JJ, I've never had any of those phone numbers for him, so I don't know what's the right number.
As long as the board does not object, I will check with those 3 parties about their contact information, make any necessary adjustments, but we will still leave those 3 as the nominees. Are we all okay with that?
Yes, I do have a question, Chris.
Yep.
When Jesse was appointed in 2016, his term was until 2021. They have a 5-year term. Why are we reappointing him?
Was he not one of the ones that was listed? I thought the 3 of...
You called him.
I didn't have my paperwork in front of me, Sandy. That doesn't...
Just curious.
All right, I will check on that. I thought that there was 3 appointments, but I will check on that.
Okay, thanks.
All right, and I will shoot an email out as soon as I get that answer.
All right.
So on to the next. So we invited the planning commission here, knowing full well that you guys have a task that none of us want to have. And I think that we have a great committee that's a part of that. We have some other people that have expressed some interest in that want to see what's going on in town, and that's encouraging to finally start to see that happening again. But ultimately, we want to make sure that the Planning Commission knows that the Select Board is here. There's not any need for that divisive wall that has been between us, that I have at least felt between us, and some other committees around town. I think that we all share the same goals, which is to move Vernon forward, to make it the community that we all know that it can be, and to give all of our kids or grandkids the community to grow up in that the majority of us were allotted that same privilege. I know for myself, having 2 boys here, that it means a lot to me to try and make sure that they get the same things that we had, despite the fact that Vernon is changing and has changed drastically since I was a punk teenager running the mean streets of Vernon. But I think that we're at a spot where these conversations can happen. We can bounce ideas off from each other without that constant butting heads. And I think that we can certainly prevail on the other side of this with something that benefits every member of our community. So thank you to the Planning Commission for everything that you guys do. Thank you for joining us tonight. Really, we just want to make sure that we get some type of an update so that we can just know that we're all on the same page and that Vernon is indeed moving forward. Now that I have said that, I'm going to read an email that I have received today, and I did forward it to the board. It is from Miss Patty O'Donnell. She has said, "Dear board members, this letter is to inform you that I am resigning from all commissions and committees that I presently serve on. As you know, I have served in numerous positions for the town over the past 25 years. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the voters of Vernon for their support over those years. It has been an amazing ride and one of the biggest honors of my life. I have learned so much over the years and had many awesome experiences. I wish the board and planning commission luck as they pursue the possibilities for redevelopment of the BY property for the future of the town. I know the town is in good hands, and if I can help with advice or history as time goes on, I'm only a phone call away." Again, thank you for all the opportunities that I have had the honor of experiencing. Patty, we will maybe accept your resignation in a moment here, but I would like to say again, as I did at your planning commission meeting when you announced this, that you have been a pillar of our community. You have watched many of us grow up. You have always stood up for the underdog and certainly the punk kids like myself, and your ability to see through that and see the good in people and encourage them through that. Your support for our recreation department has been fantastic. And much of what we have in this town for our children, there's a lot of credit that you deserve. So I want to thank you from me personally. I'm sure the rest of the board will extend their appreciation as well. But that is not from the chair of the select board, that is from Chris Parker. So I appreciate everything that you've done. Jean, Sandy, Michael, Jeff.
Well, Patty, I think that you are the best thing that came out of Act 69. Because before that, you were just this quiet little mouse. And after that, you became a strong leader, which we are going to miss more than you'll ever know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Patty, I sincerely appreciate all you've done for this town and the service you provided. Thank you.
Okay, guys, I'm not dying. Don't make me cry. I am only resigning from committees. I'll still be here in town. I'll still be a part. I just want to kind of enjoy my old age as I'm climbing upon it. So I appreciate all your kind words, and believe me, anything I've done for this town, I've gotten back tenfold. And you know, let's leave it at that. I don't want everybody saying mushy stuff, so I sit here and start crying. I thank you all from the bottom of my heart. So as I said, I'm a phone call away if you need anything.
With that, I will reluctantly ask for a motion to accept Patty O'Donnell's resignation from all committees and boards that she currently holds a seat in.
So moved with regrets.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Dunkley. All those in favor of accepting her resignation, obviously with regrets, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, Patty, you're off the hook.
No, she's not. No, she's
All
not.
right,
We got her
so
phone number.
at this point, I would like to turn this over to the Planning Commission. If we could receive an update. We also have Mike Renaud is here with some ideas or just wanted to participate in this and potentially have his voice heard as well. So Mike, I've unmuted you. Welcome to the meeting. And at this point, we are going to ask somebody from the Planning Commission to give us an update.
Hi, this is Bob Spencer. I'm the chair. And we have on the Zoom call Tom Rappaport, who's our vice chair, Patty, who is no longer with us. And I can't say enough about Patty. So, and then, and she actually created the structure of this new economic development aspect and cultivated new members. So I said I can't say enough about Patty. And then we have also, let's see, we have, who else on the Planning Commission is here?
Jason?
Oh, yes, Jason, who is also chair of the rec department and a relatively new member. And is there someone else on? I can't see.
We've got Maddie and Jeff.
Oh yeah, Jeff is on the select board and on the Planning Commission, and Maddie Arms. So we have 7 members and we now have 6, so we have a vacancy. The select board, I've talked to Chris, will advertise that we have a vacancy. We do have on the call today Natalia and her husband Greg, and Natalia has submitted her name as a candidate, and so far we think she'd be great, but we want to make sure other residents have a chance to join us. So Chris, would you like me to go through my quick summary of the Planning Commission stuff before Mike Renaud talks?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, Mike, hang in there, I'll be short.
Oh, no problem.
All right. So I introduced our members. We meet on the second Wednesday of each month. Not every month. Lately, we've been trying to not meet if we didn't have anything pressing. We have basically spent so much time in the last 10 years, and Jeff's been on the board, and Patty's been on the board, and Maddie's been on the board, that we have an updated town plan from 2 years ago. We have a really good town plan by all accounts of what a town plan should have. It qualifies the town for a significant amount of grants and funding that if we didn't have an updated town plan, we would not be eligible for. It gives us standing on any statewide reviews under Act 250 or Section 248, which is Public Service Board functions. Given that we don't have any zoning in town, those are the primary mechanisms for the town to have input. We have an enhanced energy plan in our town plan, which qualifies us for other funding. We have a hazard mitigation plan in development, and some of the select boards involved with that. Maddie Arms is on the Nuclear Decommissioning Advisory Panel as our representative, and she also is the town through the select board's representative or liaison with North Star Services. So Maddie's wearing multiple hats here, a very important role. Thank you, Maddie. We have a new municipal planning grant funded from the state, which is matched with $30,000 from North Star. And this is working with Antioch, New England's graduate school program to look at some detailed engineering and environmental assessments of the Vermont Yankee site in terms of its development potential. That's about a 30-month. Oh, Martin Langefeld, you're on here too. I'm sorry, Martin.
I just let him in. I didn't realize. I hope you hadn't been waiting long, Martin.
Yeah, Martin's on. Martin, I wanted to make sure you were acknowledged as being on. So we have the new municipal planning grant. We have the 30,000-hour North Star match, which is really a very good use of state and North Star funds. It's in their interest, of course. And then I also wanted to comment that as the Planning Commission, we have had a really strong working relationship with North Star. I mean, we have Dave Pearson, and then on site, Corey Daniels. And so far we feel very comfortable with North Star as the decommissioning agent. Probably, and Chris, I have to thank you for asking us to meet with the select board. It's been stressful at times in the past to not have a liaison or a working relationship, but we have so much opportunity in this town, and I don't want to go into that, but things are happening here. And I was told actually by Chris Campany of Wyndham Regional Commission this week, Martin was on the call, that real estate is being snapped up in southern Vermont as a result of the COVID pandemic with out-of-staters. I think Martin said a house went on the market and one day it was sold to an out-of-state buyer. Is that right, Martin?
This is, yeah, in Vernon. I'm not sure if they were out of state, but I think so, yes.
So, I mean, we're all looking for some positives from this pandemic, and we may see a resurgence in our real estate market. 9/11 actually did have some of that impact. So the new opportunity that I want to talk to the select board about, and Martin, once again, is taking the lead on this, thank you, Martin, is federal funding for nuclear communities that are facing closure. And it's through the Federal Economic Development Agency. It's in the tens of millions of dollars. And Martin and me and some others are starting to work on an application. And we would bring that to the select board when we're ready, but it's happening fast. And Martin, maybe you could just fill us in on where we're at with that.
Sure. So this is funding that was finagled by somebody into the 2021 federal budget. It's $15 million that is going to what they call nuclear closure communities, places where nuclear plants are closing up. It's modeled on a previous program that's been running for 3 or 4 years for coal communities, places where coal in one form or another was part of the local economy, but the coal mines have shut, or the coal processing or shipping or whatever has shut. So this is for nuclear, and we fit the bill. We fall into the Philadelphia region of the EDA. The Philadelphia region is getting about $5-point-something million out of the $15 million that was appropriated. And this is just, parceled out by the number of nuclear plants or something like that. And the grants are two possible different grants. One is a planning grant, and the floor for the planning grant, the lowest amount possible, is $100,000. The other kind of grant is a project grant. So if you have something that you've got ready for actual shovels in the ground, then you can apply for a project grant, which can be $300,000 to $500,000. These need to have a local match. So that's a consideration. We knocked this around at the Planning Commission. We also talked to the Wyndham Regional, Chris Campany. We talked to folks at BDCC. And it seems like a planning grant is the smartest thing to go for. We do not really have a bricks and mortar project, a shovels in the ground project ready to go. So, so the way we're thinking about shaping this is a planning grant that will continue the work of helping us to figure out what the right kinds of businesses are that could use that site or, nearby property. And also, keeping in mind that we have an agreement with North Star under the MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, that was ratified by the Public Utilities Commission to allow North Star to proceed. And that MOU says that Vernon, the town of Vernon, can select certain pieces of infrastructure on the site for preservation, such as parking lots, roadways, railway sidings, electrical infrastructure, wells, septic systems, the office building, and I forget what else, but things that could be useful for some future use of the site. So rather than demolishing them and then having to rebuild them, that the town might point to those things and say, we'd like to keep them. Right now, we have no basis to select those things. And we do have a current planning grant that was given by the state of Vermont, matched by North Star, that is doing kind of a baseline mapping project to kind of figure out what's on the site and look at possible ways of reusing it. But it's not a big enough grant to go far enough to help us to really identify those things. So the grant that we are considering applying to the EDA would really go in much more detail, do a survey to figure out what the right kinds of industries are, or the potential kinds of industries are that could reuse that site, and what kinds of infrastructure they might like to use on that site, and what other kinds of infrastructure might be useful to have on the site. So it could go as far as actually, drawing blueprints and saying, here's where the road goes, here's where the lot lines are, here's where this kind of business can go, here's where that kind of business can go. And, all of this might seem a little bit premature, given that North Star has got at least 5 years to go before they're finished. But, these things take time, and you don't want to be in the position of 5 years from now saying, okay, they're done, now what are we going to do? You want to be in a position of having a plan and being able to roll it out in advance of North Star's completion, so that we can start even in a year or 2 or 3 from now to talk to potential tenants on that site or buyers of portions of that site for redevelopment. So that's where we are right now with this opportunity. And we as I think we had part of the discussion with Chris Campany, there are various folks, including us, including the Wyndham Regional Commission, including the EDA, and maybe even the NRC, which we don't have any lines into, but who are excited about the idea that this could be the first post-nuclear or nuclear plant site that really gets reused in a meaningful way instead of being turned into a green field and forgotten about, which has been the case in a bunch of the places that have been so far that have been totally decommissioned. So, you know, we want to be in a leadership position. I think North Star would be interested in having us do that. North Star certainly is interested in decommissioning other sites. There's going to be dozens of them around the country. They want to do a good job in Vernon. They want to build a good relationship in Vernon. And I think they would want to support efforts like this for the reuse of the site. So, so we are hoping also to talk to North Star about potentially matching the all or a portion of this EDA grant if it comes our way.
And the timeline, Martin.
Yeah, so just to make life interesting for all of us, the timeline that's been recommended to us by Matthew Sochodolsky, who is our friend at the EDA down in Philadelphia, is get your application done by the 1st of June. That's a tall order, but we're going to do our best. I have worked with Matthew once before on a major grant that did come through with all kinds of matches. And so, you know, hopefully we'll do this again. But that's kind of, I think, my life for the next couple of weeks is to work on that and see if we can't get in under the deadline. It's not a deadline. It's a rolling deadline that, you know, you can apply any time for this funding. But the message is simply that the EDA is going to start looking at these things after the 1st of June. And so we want to be in the file and not sort of pending at that time.
But Martin, it would have to come out of the select board, wouldn't it?
I think we will need, you know, some endorsement by the select board at
So
that point.
we're not just running off on our own.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. We're not, don't worry about that. You know, we're not going to do this without the select board saying, okay, we're signing this application.
So that's a good segue for Mike Renaud.
Well, I did want to ask just a couple of questions. One, the switch yards that are down there, what happens to those? Do those stay there, or are those leased by TransCanada or whoever it is?
Well, the switch yard is owned by Valco. And that switch yard, even if, you know, Vermont Yankee has been shut down for several years, that switch yard is still an active asset of Valco in terms of managing the flow of electricity around the grid in New England, and is actually Vernon's largest taxpayer, as far as I know. So, but you know, that is an asset to any future use of the user of the site. Having great electrical generating infrastructure there in the form of the dam, having great distribution infrastructure in the form of that switch yard, having, you know, trunk lines of the internet available, being near interstate exits. All of that is sort of very positive to various kinds of uses. But that's the planning process will be to figure out, okay, who are those users?
I'm more curious about the property that switchyard sits on, because that's old Vermont Yankee property, isn't it? So that would essentially come. No, Patty, I see you shaking your head. Let's hear it.
What happened probably about 15 years ago is that when they started the Velco called the Southern Loop Project. And it was redirecting the roads, let's say roads of electricity and how they get to where they need to go. And it was a really big project. It was very, very expensive. But the land that they wanted for the switchyard was land that the Miller Farm people were farming. And obviously the Miller Farm people didn't want to lose good quality farmland. So we went to Entergy at the time and we talked to them, and what they did was, because Velco was going to could take the land by eminent domain because it's a utility company. So because of the type of project it was. So what happened was Entergy switched land from Velco and gave the farming land to the Millers that they were renting from Entergy, or they weren't renting, they were using anyway. It was always Entergy's property. But Entergy gave that land to the Millers and transferred land to Velco so that they could do their Southern Loop project. So really, Entergy gave away that land, so they don't own it. Velco owns the land where the switchyard is. The Millers own the land that's being farmed.
Can we 100% confirm that? Because that is not the story that I got from Mr. Daniels and Dave today while I was at North Star. They are saying that that has a very long-term lease on it. But
oh, I'm sorry, that land does have a 99-year lease.
So that would mean that that property is part of the VY property that Vernon would be assuming responsibility for in 5 years. Is that correct?
I don't think so. You'd have to look more at the agreement that was made between Entergy and North Star. There has to be some compensation made for Velco, and I really wasn't up on that part of it, so I don't know.
So that would be something that the planning,
out of, like an old lady's head from a lot of years ago. So,
but that is something that the planning commission should, without a doubt, know before we start talking about redevelopment or finding somebody for that. That's a big chunk of land that's tied up for 99 years. But apparently everybody here doesn't exactly know what that entails or what that means. So.
Well, right now it has the infrastructure for the Southern Loop. I mean, it's not the only land that is involved there is where those big towers and wires and all that is. We weren't going to use any of that land anyway.
Yeah, that's, that's 5 or 10 acres of the total site. The total site is 125 acres, which is, small for a nuclear site, but, significant for industrial or other kind of business development.
Right, but are we not, in order to redevelop that, because they hold a 99-year lease, if we were to turn around and sell that property to somebody, would we not have to split that and redeed that land so that that is separate, aside from what we are selling to whoever the potential investor is?
Well, before we talk about selling it, we don't own it.
We don't own it.
It has been kind of, but not legally, promised to us by North Star. North Star has said, when we're done, we have no further interest, we'll turn it over to the town. As part of this planning process, that as a first step is probably something we need to do and get kind of a legal agreement around. And that will clarify, how much land is there really, how much is leased to Velco and so forth. But one way or another, there's going to be, a considerable chunk of land that is available for redevelopment. And, this grant can expand, or should be expanded probably, to cover additional planning around the village center plan, which covers, all of the land between the school and the town offices and some adjoining properties, all of which, could be residential, could be business, could be mixed use. So we're actually looking at a fairly large area.
And then my other question is, so everything, you guys have that conversation with North Star, they say, and they put it in a legal document that, yes, this is yours when we are done, with a nice pretty bow on the top. Their North Star trucks head south on 142 in 5 years. We never see or hear from them again. We now have this big piece of property perhaps there's no investor, there's no business to come in. The town of Vernon now takes ownership of that property with no tax revenue coming in because we don't have somebody there. So then what happens? Are we stuck sitting on that property until 5 select board members and a planning commission all come to the same agreement on this is what we want in there? Is that realistically where we would be at?
This is exactly the reason why we should now be jumping into a planning process to figure out what it is, so that when that day comes and the trucks are heading south, we're not saying, okay, now what? We, at that point, would know what we want to do with that property, and we would have long since have attracted interest and made deals and, pre-sold portions of that or pre-leased portions of that, so that, we would not be in that situation. If we do nothing, that's when we're going to be in the situation you described.
Besides that, Chris, when the plant is decommissioned, the land doesn't have any value anyway. What has value, as far as the tax base, are the 100 and something casks that are going to be on that property with the dry cask storage, and those will be assessed at $1 million a cask. So I don't even remember what the total number of casks are, but that's where the value of that land is. Nothing else has any value. So while they're in the process of doing this, as Martin said, that's why the committee has worked so hard to try to make sure they can maintain control over the land, because now is when we try to recruit somebody. And you just talked about real estate and the difference the pandemic is having on real estate. Don't you think there are companies out there that would like to bring their company to Vermont and employ their people here, where they never have to worry about the safety of the people that work for them or the safety of their families? So, I think there's a lot of possibilities that nobody's kind of sitting back on their heels, except for me now. But nobody's sitting back on their heels waiting for anything to happen. There's been a lot of work that's been going on. So this committee is ready to hit the road running and start trying to recruit, along with the help, hopefully, of BDCC, but trying to recruit good quality businesses to come in and run a clean, good, efficient company on that property.
And with that, unless Gene,
Chris,
yeah, go ahead.
Chris, this is Bob. I'd like to ask Maddie to comment. She's been our liaison to North Star, and she's also been in discussions with some potential developers of the site. And Mike Renaud is on the line, and he's interested. So I think we're going to see some interest. And Maddie, do you want to say anything?
Now I can say something. I think that Bob is absolutely right. I think that there are going to be people that are extremely interested in this site, and we want to do things the right way. We don't want to jump before we have a really well thought out plan for vetting anybody who wants to be there, because we want people that are going to be good Vernon citizens as well as good business people.
And we have some interest from some development companies that we can't really discuss.
Mike, I'm gonna turn the floor over to you, and then we'll see what the rest of the select board has for questions. So, Mike Renaud, go ahead.
Okay, well, I just wanted to say, I have interest in the property, just because I live here, and my family live here, my grandkids live here, and I don't want to see it end up with a developable piece of property that we can't sell. I've owned different properties over the years. The time to sell it is when you got a buyer for it. I mean, there's a lot of vacant property in Brattleboro. There's there's a lot of vacant property in Springfield, Vermont, huge properties. But, you know, I think that we should, as North Star is done with the piece of property, we should section that property off. We should be, I don't think we should wait 5 years till we try to find somebody to move in there. I don't know. I mean, I've just seen how you're waiting for some study to come through that's going to tell you who wants it. Well, that doesn't really sell property or doesn't build a business. I mean, the everyday, when you got a customer that wants to move in there, that's when you need to move. I've been working. I'm really not at liberty to say the name, but I've been talking to a developer that needs a lot of power, and they've developed this type of property before, and we're trying to put a plan together for an actual customer, not playing for, you know, somebody who we may try to attract. I don't know who you would attract. I mean, you could stand out there all day waving a flag, but unless the right person comes by, it's usually a case of being in the right place at the right time. So I just, you know, I think that it would be hard to get the town, or if the town ends up owning a property, I think it's going to be tough to get everybody to agree what to do with it. I mean, I don't think the town should try to end up owning the development rights on this. I think that they should bail out of it just as soon as they can, so that they never miss a beat on collecting the tax dollars. That's kind of the way I feel about it. I don't personally need to own it, but I have a lot at stake because I'm a big taxpayer in town, in my opinion, and I want to see whatever can be done so that somebody else is paying a lot of taxes, so I don't have to keep paying more of them. So that's kind of the way I'm looking at it from a business aspect. I think that the town should step back a little bit, and if they've got a customer that is willing to take over what North Star has there, I think they should let them have it.
So Mike, this is Bob Spencer. Have you had discussions with North Star about whether they could release a portion of the site?
I've had discussions with North Star about relinquishing their rights to the property, and with them saying they have an agreement with the town, a gentleman's agreement, and they plan on honoring it, and they wouldn't want to do anything besides that at this point. They are okay with not owning it. They have no interest in owning it and being a developer. But they did make the verbal commitment to the town to turn that over to the town, and they don't have a problem with turning it over to somebody else with the town's permission.
Well, I wanted to point out that Mike Renaud met with the Planning Commission last fall, and just to present the same concept. And you did say, Mike, I think if you agree, that you'd like to get something going there, you know, whether it was
Absolutely.
rail transport of gravel or stone or salt or something. Just get something happening there. Is that still what you're thinking as a developer?
Absolutely. I think that if we could get a switch yard in there to bring products in, they do have one up in Bellas Falls. That rail switch yard is a very busy switch yard.
Yep.
A lot of steel and rebar comes in and out of there. A lot of plywood comes in and out of there. I mean, if we do a situation like that, we're going to have some added truck traffic, which is probably not going to make some people happy. But I don't know what type of development you could have there that you're not going to have some added wheeled traffic. You know, I mean, whether it be a distribution center or whether it be a switch yard or a data center. You know, data center uses a lot of electricity. One of the things I think would be sad to give up would be, you do have so much power right there, and anything that uses that much power is going to need a lot of cooling. So if we gave up the intake and discharge, that seems like that would be a sad thing to give up.
Mike, I'm sorry to interrupt you on that, Mike. I did ask Corey specifically about things that we have no control over as far as what we can and cannot choose to keep. And that cooling portion of, because it would drop back into the river, we have zero control over that, and that will be removed no matter what the town of Vernon wants with that. And while I'm on that, Martin, the other, you had mentioned parking lots. There is a few other things there that the NRC could certainly overstep that agreement that we have and say that it's coming out whether we want it or not. So.
Yeah, I'm sure that's true. But and I just want to jump in and say, I agree with Mike that if there's a way that, this can transition from North Star decommissioning to a private sector owner who develops it or who uses it, that's great. Ideally, the town is not, a party to ownership of this anywhere along the way and doesn't lose out on taxes that way. But again, that just underscores why it's important for the town to really have a good plan and to really understand how to do this and how to best proceed. And the other thing I should have mentioned is, we went into this, we're going into this thinking that we should go for a planning grant for $100,000 plus, because we don't have a shovels in the ground project. But the planning, this funding, which exists right now for FY 2021 in the federal budget, is something that, for better or for worse, once something is in the federal budget, it's actually hard to get it out. That coal community funding has been there for years and years. So if we go through this grant and we do a good plan, we are in a good position to go back to the EDA in a year or two and say, okay, now we've got a shovels in the ground project, which could be preparing a portion of that site once North Star is done, to get it ready for industrial development, and all of which would make it just that much more attractive for a buyer once North Star is totally done.
So this is Bob Spencer. Chris and Selectboard, we don't really know what will happen there. It's obvious. So a planning is, it sort of drives us crazy because you just do plans, like Mike was saying, another plan. But you have to have these documents in place to qualify for all sorts of programs. So as the planning commission, we're going to stay on that path and try to bring these opportunities to the town.
So,
And I think that's good, Bob, if I can step in for a minute.
yep,
I
please.
think it is good to have a plan like that. I just don't think we want to be planning for a farm when the market is for a rail siding, you know, I mean.
No, I agree. I don't think we'll
I
be,
think that,
right. I
and I
don't think we'll
think
be
that-
that detailed. We won't be that detailed,
okay.
you know.
Well, I think you should team up with I think they should, you should almost team up with somebody early, you know, and I think whether it was me or somebody else, somebody that you're comfortable with, that you team up early and say, hey, we're going to run it. It's like a project manager, you know, or like a construction management company, you know, they come in and they you know, they organize the things, they get you in the path that you want to head. They build what you want, your plan. So if somebody like myself was going to put a bunch of effort into recruiting a good customer for that, I mean, unless there's some way for lack of a better word, unless there's a way for me to make a buck at it, you know, or somebody else, they're not going to put all the effort into it that is going to get the you know, get the right, I'm struggling for the right words for it, but to get the right customer in
Right
there,
package,
you know, like
right package
to go to these meetings. I mean, I can
right
to package it, yeah.
Well, that's why we need a plan.
And to go meet with the potential customers.
Right. That's why we need a plan, because we need,
you know,
a package of a package of options, and who's going to control it. Are we going to do an RFP? It will be an industrial development zone. I mean, all this is so up in the air, but we all know that this type of infrastructure works if we can figure it out. So that's why we want to do this EDA grant and hopefully have North Star pay the match. And, you know, we're doing the best we can as a planning commission. I mean, you know.
And nobody's trying to take that away in any way, Bob.
No, I know, it's just tough.
Sure.
It's so tough. It's frustrating.
And I can certainly see Mike's side of this, and I can see the Planning Commission side of it. And we can sit here and we can say that real estate is booming right now, but I mean, all we have to do is look back a couple of years and realize that it's not. It could change in 5 years.
Yep. Yep.
This pandemic has proven that everybody's lives can change overnight. So if we're going to hold out with hopes that real estate is booming now and it's going to hold true in 5 years, then I think that we're foolish on that side of it.
Chris, I'd like to just say one thing. Considering all the trouble that this town has gone through and Entergy went through with the state of Vermont, I think it behooves us to be extremely careful that we don't run afoul of the state in doing anything on that property. And I think it does take some thought and planning. And it also takes knowing what they're going to permit and what they're not going to permit.
And that's what the plan would look at, right, Maddie?
I think so. I think it has to.
Yeah. So this is all very current, happening now. Martin and me and Maddie and others on the planning commission will give the select board a draft of an application. Believe me, it's going to take a lot of hours on our part, but this is like a great opportunity, and we are in a planning phase. There's no way around it. We just can't go to redevelopment right now. North Star can't, NRC won't allow it. So it's a great opportunity to take advantage of some federal.
But we don't
money.
know that the NRC won't allow that because North Star doesn't know that the NRC won't allow that. So until we know that that is a definite hard no, I think that we need to refrain from saying that it can't happen.
So it might happen, is what you're saying.
I'm saying that North Star doesn't have that answer, and they are willing to look into the potential of splitting that off in phases.
See, that would be huge. I think we should. That's what Mike Renaud saying.
And so please, I'm begging the Planning Commission to please not take this as snarky, but those are the answers that you guys should have. Those are the things that should be a part of the plan, and those should be early on in the plan, that we would have those types of answers. And I know that you guys are working hard, and I say again that you are doing something that I truthfully don't want a huge part in, because of the amount of groundwork that you guys are doing and the unbelievable amount of hours that you're putting in. But we're trying to not put the cart before the horse, but we're putting the cart before the horse by trying not to put the cart before the horse. I mean, it seems like we're just in this big circle and we're missing a few key answers that are very a huge instrumental part to moving forward here.
So I think maybe we need to engage with some legal advice on this. It would not be out of the question to have someone actually look into all of this.
Agreed.
And that's something that we don't have as a group. We are, we're volunteers. We don't get paid for this. In fact, we don't even really have a huge budget. But I think if that's the way the town feels, we need to engage a lawyer.
I'm not sure that that's how the town feels. I'm saying that that is an option. And at this point, when we're 5 years away from the end of what has been a nightmare, we need to have every possible answer and avenue that this could potentially go. We need to have that covered. And if we don't, then we are doing a disservice to the town, and we're not as prepared as we should be. And again, I'm begging you guys, please don't take this as me coming at you aggressively or saying that I disagree with what you're doing or telling you that it should be done different. This is exactly why I wanted this meeting, was so that we could all discuss these things and be on the same page. The meeting that I had with them today, I did ask, or I did mention to them that I think in August, realistically, we could potentially have like face-to-face meetings. And by then we would have hopefully a permanent town administrator back in the building. So I would like to see that the Planning Commission, the Select Board, North Star, the new town administrator, perhaps we invite Larry down for it. And we have that meeting where everybody is involved in that. We could warn it. Maybe we do it at the school and we invite members of the community. I'm not sure. But I think that we need to have that input, and we need to get that feeling from people, not to ask everybody what they want to see on VY's property. Not whether they want Amazon or they want Walmart. That's certainly not the conversation, but to get those answers so that North Star is telling the Planning Commission the same thing that they're telling the Select Board, and everybody can just hear it and be a part of it, ask the questions that need to be asked, and then we would be able to truthfully move forward in a direction that, because everything has changed. Everything has changed as their deadlines have changed, as they've sped things up. So I think that we need to be able and willing to change as quickly with them and the potential for that property. I 100% agree with you, Maddie, that you guys should be entitled to some type of legal counsel to be asking those questions and to get the answers. And I'm not sure what that looks like. I would ask that Bob and maybe somebody with a lot more knowledge than me finds out how we could get that support to you guys or make that available for you, because the legal portion of that is going to be probably the biggest part of that moving forward, with the exception of the NRC's approval.
Chris, are you saying that basically that all of this kind of stuff should happen before we apply for this grant that we're talking about, because, you know, I'm sitting here right now, you know, ready to either spend the next 2 weeks of my life writing a grant and getting all kinds of assistance from all kinds of people on it, you know, or, you know, digging in my garden. And, you know, and if we're saying we got to get legal advice and we got to talk more to North Star, we got to talk to the NRC and whatever else, then I'll forget it. I'll dig into my garden. I'm thinking that all of those kinds of things can happen under the auspices of a grant. You know, if we get the grant, we can go ahead and we can use it to get legal advice, and we can use it to do all kinds of things. But the first thing is, you know, let's get the resources to do this stuff. But if you're saying,
no, I'm not saying. I'm saying that we should be covering every possible avenue.
Well,
and one of those avenues is certainly securing funding via grant funds, so that if that's the way that you guys go about seeking legal counsel, to be able to have that on in your corner, so to speak, then absolutely we need to move in that direction. The only thing I'm saying is that there is some unanswered questions here that I think we need some answers for. And one of those is, are we capable, would the NRC, how do we go about getting approval to split that off into sectors so that development could start at the same time that North Star is decommissioning a different section? And if that's a possibility, then I would like to see us looking at that, because obviously that brings in a revenue much sooner than waiting out the next 5 to 7 years.
I think that's a question that can be explored, you know, as part of this grant planning. And, you know, if it happens, it's a nice thing. If it doesn't, you know, we still need to be ready 5 years from now with a good plan.
Correct. Yeah, I'm not asking us to stop or asking you guys to stop and redirect any of your efforts in any way. I certainly don't want to see that, because you guys have made a ton of progress. I just want to, again, make sure the select board is here tonight. We have different eyes on this because we haven't been as deeply invested in it as you guys have. And it's like anything else, when a fresh set of eyes comes in, we notice different things. And this time it's coming as a form of a question, or so. I'm certainly not asking you to do a 180 and go a different direction. Go ahead, Patty.
Also, Chris, in fairness, and I don't mean to be snarky, but you're coming along long after this process has started without any idea as to how the process works. And this is not a business, and I've told you that in my office. This is a municipality, and nothing is done simply. The whole point of planning grants is so we can dot our I's and cross our T's. So when it comes time for Act 250 permitting and anything else that's going to be involved in any construction that's going on in that site, we have done all our homework. So we haven't been spinning our wheels and sitting around here. We're many people who have vast experience in these avenues, and we have been working damn hard to make this happen.
And
so
I'm pretty certain that I started out by.
Have this be my last speech in all the years I've been here, but believe me, Chris, you have a lot to learn.
So
that being said,
I am going to 100% take your last comment as snarky, because to tell me that I have a lot to learn when I'm asking a very simple question, which is, have we asked if that property can be split and redeveloped? And the answer that I've gotten is no. So for me to ask that question is perfectly within my right to ask, because it's a valid question when we start talking to other investors that might want to bring a smaller business, maybe not an Amazon warehouse. And if that is a potential, then why are we not looking in that direction?
That will all be part of planning when
which is why I said that I am not asking anybody to not go for the grant.
Meeting, Chris, and beg for $1,000 to keep the planning commission going. We don't have any money. We don't have professional money or anything. we have to spend all our time, and I don't know, I know you haven't never written a grant. It is a long, drawn out process.
You are
And I
very
haven't written
wrong
one either.
with
I've
your
watched you
comments
write
to me.
one.
You're very wrong. I write grants all the time. That's how my program is successful.
Well,
So,
then you understand
You
that
know
it's
what,
not
people?
anything that's done
You know
in a
what,
day.
people?
This conversation really doesn't matter.
You know what, people? I'm done. I am done. If you want this grant to be written, call me tomorrow. Thank you. Good night.
Patty, I'm not really sure what I could have possibly said this evening that set you off, because I was extremely careful to make sure that I acknowledged all of the hard work that has gone in from the Planning Commission. I in no way have been attempted to take away from that. I have simply asked some questions because the previous board member that sat where I'm sitting did not return any information to us. So there is a large part of our select board that is blind to what is going on. And that can fall directly on us for not asking the appropriate questions, and that's fine. I'm sitting here now and I will take the blame for that. But I still have questions that need answers, and that is not me coming at anybody aggressively. That is me asking a simple question. I'm not asking you guys not to write the grant. If you guys need more money, then come to us and express that. Talk to us about this. This is what I wanted this for, was so that we could work together and not against each other. And this is what has been going on in this town for way too long, that each committee stays within their own committee and they form their own little group, and that's where they stay. And they push their own agenda. And I'm sorry, but each personal agenda is not going to move this town forward. We need to all be on the same page, and we need to all work together. And if we can't do that, then we're going to remain a stagnant town, and we are not going to attract anybody here because we can't get along as a community. Go ahead, Bronny, you've got your hand up again. Go ahead.
I don't want to get in the middle of this, but I want to remind Bob that there's also a part of the town plan that could help with the development, this planning grant process, not just Bob, all of you on the Planning Commission, and it's the fiber optics set, which given what's going on with the school closures and all the need for even this meeting, the way we're meeting, that's a very important present and future need. And so I just would like to insert that in the planning development, the planning grant thing. That's it.
No, we appreciate that, Brana, and Munson and you have done a fantastic job on the fiber optic initiative. And it's obviously on our agenda to pursue. And with the redevelopment of the VY site, it's an integral part. So it's not going away. So I actually feel we've had a very positive meeting. Chris, thank you. And the Planning Commission, I know Martin got a little frustrated. We're going to stay on track for this EDA grant. At least I will. And, you know, we have a huge opportunity here. So, I mean, we don't know which way we're going to go. Mike Renaud has ideas. The Selectboard has ideas. North Star has no idea. So. Anyway.
I also think, you know, Bob, you're absolutely right. But if people want a little bit more insight into NRC and what pieces of land are going to be released first and how that is all going to figure out into the big game plan of this, maybe we should get, you know, Bob Leach to talk to you guys, because he has a really good handle on that. And it might give you a little bit more insight. We've listened to him for a long time, and he was one of our expert witnesses with this whole program. So that might actually help. We might actually be able to get Bob to sit in on one of these, and you could ask him your questions. But I think he was very specific about where they would release, and if there was going to have to be additional shielding put up around the casks before they would allow any construction. So yeah, it's kind of it is a quandary.
Yes.
But people can't lose their patience because somebody doesn't have an answer right at the tip of their tongue. Answers are available, but just tell us what you want. We'll do the research and we'll get the answers to you.
So Maddie, I will apologize if you think, or anybody on the Planning Commission feels that I was attacking them or taking away from the hard work that anybody has done. I didn't expect anybody to have the answers at the tip of their tongue. I simply
Then
asked
maybe
the
you
question.
should have prefaced it that way and said,
Okay, but
you
I
have
prefaced
these,
this
and if you
entire
don't have
thing by
these-
saying that I appreciate all of your hard work, and I have still been taken to be a jerk, as I have been called via text message since people have left this meeting. I think that I acknowledged the work that everybody has done. I have expressed how appreciative I am, but I have also acknowledged that I do not have the information here, and that is not the Planning Commission's fault. That is the Select Board's fault, and I'll just leave it at that. So,
well, maybe we should try this again, you know,
So-
and just give everybody
but-
a chance to cool down.
but what you just said as far as, and I'm sorry, I've already forgotten the gentleman's name that you, Birch Beach, what did you
No,
say?
Bob Leach.
Leach, okay, I'm writing it down so I don't forget it now. Those are the types of things that I want to know. That's, hey, you can get some more information from here. Those are the things that I'm missing. And I don't think that that makes me naive or stupid for not knowing these things. That means that I am new to this. And when I accepted the nomination from our board as the chair, I made it very clear that I did not have the answers or the knowledge to do everything, and that I was going to rely on the other 4 members of that board.
So Chris, this is Bob.
Yes.
So
Yep.
you met with North Star, who, with Corey?
With Corey and Pearson.
So I'm just curious, are you the liaison with?
No, I set up a meeting with them because I went to your Planning Commission meeting last week and was told that I should have set up a meeting as the new chair. So I did that based off from the recommendation from your board, so that I could try to be more in line with the decisions that are being made and have the answers necessary to make decisions. So I did what was recommended from your committee.
No, I think that's good. I'm just wondering because Maddie is now the town's official liaison.
And that's fine. I did it as the chair of the select board. It was nothing more than a meet and greet. And I made it very clear that the next meeting that we set up, I wanted to make sure it involved both the Planning Commission and the select board.
Well,
I don't want to have the select board chair going and making decisions by himself. I want to make sure that these are educated decisions that involve every party, which ultimately involves our entire community.
Yeah, we just don't want to go down that path again.
And that is in no way. So last week, Patty O'Donnell made the recommendation that I set up a meeting with North Star. So I immediately did that. And I really am failing to see where this meeting took such a drastic turn this evening, because like you, Bob, I thought that we were actually doing quite well.
No,
trying to be on the same page. And the entire purpose of this meeting was to be able to ask questions. But if I can't ask questions without it being taken as me being aggressive towards it, then I apologize if I'm coming off that way, but.
Listen, Chris, I think we accomplished a lot. There were some, disagreements about approach. So let's just thank you for arranging this. It's like any family, right, Chris? you know, you've got your disagreements, so we're a family, okay?
All right. Yeah, does the select board have any further questions?
No.
Sandy,
No,
Jeff,
No, no, I'm good. Thanks.
Michael? All right. Planning, Maddie, I'm sorry, you were about to say something and I cut you off. What did you have, Maddie?
No, thank you very much for inviting us.
Yes, thank you.
And I just think, you know, sometimes it's very, very difficult. You're in your position, you didn't have the knowledge and it wasn't passed along. It's hard to get that kind of information in a very gentle way. And I think we all just need to cool down a bit and we can start over again another day.
Okay. All right. So I would like to close by saying that I do appreciate all of you. And this is what I hope we have going forward is a collective conversation so that it is not one-sided or one committee against another. So I do hope that in the future, cooler heads prevail. I apologize for my part of that this evening. There was zero disrespect intended to the Planning Commission in any way. So I hope that that is at least known. So with that, we will move on to number 3 of new business. Wow, we are a long ways into this meeting. Discussion on monthly committee and department reports. I think that it's important, and I believe that it used to be this way previously. Sandy, correct me if I'm wrong, that all committees in town gave an update to the select board. Is that correct?
yes.
So I would like to see that we notify department heads, committees, and other boards throughout town to make sure that their agendas are being sent and published in a way that we can see that, as well as ensuring that we get all of their minutes and reports from those meetings. Any discussion, thoughts? Jean?
So it sounds like those committees need to be reminded perhaps that their secretary should be sending us also their agendas and minutes. And that it seems like that's the way we will, at least that part of it will happen.
What happened in the past was and what is running Northup that had it instituted, they would come into the town clerk's office, she would get a copy, she would make a copy of all the minutes for the board members. So the committees didn't have to get them to us. It was part of the administrative assistant's job.
Well, with, you know, it seems like with email, it just means adding a few more names to your group.
That's true.
And it's not any extra work for anybody. It's
idea.
just click and it's done.
Good idea.
But I would appreciate hearing what's going on in some of these other committees. Just can't get to all those meetings.
And I think that that would alleviate a majority of what just happened. if we were all on the same page, so that it wasn't just one person with all of the knowledge, that we all were on the same page all of the time. Jeff, your thoughts? No.
Getting late, that's all.
Yeah. Brana, you've got your hand up. Go ahead.
One of the reasons I come to the meeting, I feel like as chair of the trustees, I'm a liaison from the trustees and I can bring the two-way information. My question is, by open meeting law, we have to post our agendas, like I post them at the post office, and then there's 2 here in the town office building. You want them also sent to you all. That's part of my question. When we post them publicly, is that right? So that's an additional thing, which is not a hard problem. I can send them to you electronically. And the other thing is we do draft minutes, and then at the next meeting, we, like you, approve them. Do you want the draft minutes or do you want the final minutes? So that's 2 questions.
Sandy, what have we received in the past?
In the past, you didn't have 2 sets of minutes. You had the minutes of the meeting, which were approved with corrections or without corrections at the next meeting. So therefore, you didn't have draft minutes and then real minutes. They were all your 5-day minutes or your legal minutes. And if they're not draft, they're your minutes. And then you, next time, if you correct, okay, so Jean made a mistake on the warrant, say it was warrant 65T, and she said she put in the minutes 63T. The next week it would say with a correction on page 2 of 63 to 65T. So you know what the correction was. So you'd only have 1 set of minutes for a meeting. I mean, you're making more work for yourselves.
Well, I can tell you in the library from the state, that's not what we were told to do.
Really?
It's yeah, what you're saying is confusing me.
So if you have minutes that will have to go to court, and you have your draft minutes of our meeting tonight, and the real minutes are in the not approved until 2 weeks from now, there's a court case that comes up in between times. Which minutes are they going to say are the legal minutes?
The final minutes are the legal minutes.
But they have to be in your office within 5 days. How can they be legal?
No.
if it's not there.
Yeah, but the
they
drafts
have
are
to be
available.
posted. They have to be available on a website, an official website, within 5 calendar days. And so what happens, here's what happens with the library. We meet on a Wednesday. By Monday, we have draft minutes posted on our library website. We also have final minutes that were approved from the previous month for the previous month's meeting, also posted on the website. And in those final, in the draft minutes, it says, here's where the corrections are. And then the corrections are made in the final minutes. And the town clerk gets a copy, and the unofficial website gets a copy of the final minutes that were approved for the previous month. Now that sounds confusing.
Yeah, well, Chris asked how it was done. How it was done was town committees, their minutes have to be in 5 days into the clerk's office. And they change that. I think they've extended it to 10 days during the COVID.
Yes.
And he asked me how it was done, and that's what I was answering, how it was done.
Yeah.
But that's
One
not
sec.
clear. It's not clear.
Well, if you go
I
back,
would be happy with anything from these other committees
Right.
personally,
I'm with you, Jean.
you
Right.
know, because
I
we got,
just want an update.
yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Thing.
So if we could, Tom, I believe you're still on the line here. Maybe next time you're in the office, if you're able to shoot an email to all department heads, committee chairs, board chairs, and let them know that we would like to start to see their updates from their meetings.
Yes, we can do that.
Okay, perfect. I'm gonna move on to do we need a vote on that, Sandy?
I wouldn't think so.
Okay, perfect. I'm gonna move on to a message that I received. I did email it to everybody. Did everybody read the email that I sent? That's from Chad Mulverhill.
Yes, I think it's a wonderful idea.
Okay, so I don't need to read that aloud. Could we just get a motion on that?
Mr. Chair, I move that we grant Chad Mulverhill's request for the Walter Zaluzny honorarium at the gazebo.
Okay.
Moved and seconded by Mr. Dunkley. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Next, Carol, you've got the floor. I'm going to unmute you. Go ahead.
Well, first of all, what was the motion? I
Um,
didn't get the motion.
The motion is to allow Chad Mulverhill and the Memorial Day Committee to set up a memorial honoring Mr. Zaluzny and all the other veterans for Memorial Day, just so that it is on BCTV. His suggestion does require all of the mandated social distancing, all of that stuff. We are not inviting people for a large gathering or any of that stuff. It's and it is outside. So I just want to make that clear before we get that question. So that's what the motion is, Carol.
All right. I hate long motions. That's all right. No,
the motion is just to utilize the town gazebo for a Memorial Day. What do you want to call it?
I like that. That's good.
Okay, perfect. There it is.
That's good. Perfect. Okay, so as far as my request, the other lister that was elected in March, Chad Baldwin, was deemed a non-essential employee. I am going to need him to come in. We're getting to the end of we're beginning to get to our crunch time, and I need to have him come into the office. He only works when he was able to work 2 days a week. 9 to 2 were the hours that we had set on Tuesday and Thursday. And I need to have a meeting with the Lister Board next week, a work session, and then probably the week after that, a meeting where we can make decisions or vote, because we can't vote in a work session. So I didn't know whether I needed to bring that to you or not, but that's what I would like to do.
So
all right. I have a motion to allow the third lister to come back to work as needed per Carol.
Thank you.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Dunkley. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Next, town administrator recruitment discussion. I don't think we have much to discuss. We have a special meeting for it next week. We do have some applications that have come in. I did send those out a little early so that you guys could have time to look them over and be as prepared as possible. I know that Tom sent out an email with a couple more, and potentially by the end of this week, we might see a few more stragglers. So we do have a meeting, I believe it is next Wednesday, to discuss all of this.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And Mr. Chairman, just to reiterate, you're all going to get a hard copy package of all of the applicants. I'm going to group them. You can do with it what you want, but I'm going to group them into A, B, and C. And you can do with them, pick who you want, whatever. There's a couple of gems, and there's a couple of folks that probably don't meet the threshold requirements. That's what I'll say. But you'll all get a hard copy so you can mark it up and not have to use all your ink.
Thank you.
All right. Perfect. The ever lovely stair replacement bid discussion. We got 2 bids back. They both came in today. One is 12,000, one is 9,900. Both of them, really the only difference that I saw was that one of the bids went far enough to say, where did it go? Railing. Said something about the railing. Where was it? Oh, reinstall railings to match. The other one did say that they were going to take the railings, the existing railings, clean them up, address any rust issues, and prepare for reinstallation. I'm not sure that that's a $4,000 fix, $3,000 fix, but so discussion, Jeff.
Honestly, I haven't had a chance to look at the bids.
Did we get the bids?
They should have all been emailed to you this afternoon.
With all 600 emails we had to review an hour before the meeting at work.
Oh.
Okay, so I think it's pretty cut and dry here. They are both very, very short as far as the amount of wording that's on them. So we have one from Renaud Brothers, and I'll just read it for you. It says, replace the stairs on the front of town clerk's office, remove and dispose of existing concrete stairs, remove existing railings, clean up, address any rust issues, and prepare for reinstallation, pour in place new concrete stairs, installing railings, repair, replace metal on landing. Includes all labor and materials, and says cost not to exceed $12,000, which is a strange way to write a bid, not to exceed. And then we have one from Tom Call Excavating out of Bellows Falls. His job description is mobilization, dealing with any dig safe that's necessary. That was not noted in the other one. Saw cut upper step area and remove and dispose of deteriorated concrete. And I believe that's the main entrance. Is that the part that you're talking about there, Tom Garino?
Who was cut back into the, what I call the patio area, to the stairway, into the, where you store the snow blower area.
Right.
Cut back into that a little bit and then replace that with some more concrete and a new metal fascia on it.
So then the next step was to prep the upper landing, doweling it to the existing and re-pour with fiber reinforced concrete. Lower stairwell, chip out and salvage existing center rail. Saw, cut, and remove complete set of lower stairs and dispose of those. Prep lower stairs with crushed stone, pour new lower stairs to match existing with fiber reinforced concrete, reinstall railings to match. That one was $9,900.
Does anybody know this company?
I know Tom.
Yeah, I know Tom also. But you know him better, Chris.
I mean, I just know him from around. I've seen some of his jobs. I can't say as though he's done anything for me. So I can't, but then again, neither has Renaud, so I can't compare one to the other. I do know that Tom has been around for at least 20 years that I know him, so maybe 15 years. But
did they give references?
Neither one did.
Did the Renaud's bid address the other stairs, the, like, I don't know, porch up near the door?
The only thing that it said was repair and replace metal on landing. And that's the only thing that indicates on that.
Oh.
That's the only thing indicated on the Renaud one, whereas on the Tom Call one, they were going to cut that out and actually replace the concrete instead of just the, if I'm reading this correctly, instead of just the metal, repair and replace metal on the landing.
Yeah, so it looked like he was going to come back somewhere between 2 and 5 feet when he was walking around up there on the replacement and cut. I don't know the guy's work other than he's been around for a long time, and he wouldn't be in business if he wasn't doing stuff right. Same with Renaud, but it's $2,100, so it's a substantial difference.
So Renaud's were addressing that upper landing or whatever then also? That's what I'm wondering.
I don't know. It does not.
Yeah, but not, right. Not to the degree. It's not nearly to the degree that Call was going to address the upper landing.
Okay.
What's the board want to do? Andy?
I'm thinking.
Jeff? Michael?
Move on. I'm thinking too.
Just looking on Google quick, I see. I mean, he's got 2 5-star reviews, but he mainly does excavation work. I don't see anything about concrete. Where I know Renaud does concrete for the state, for high state and federal jobs and bridges.
True. That's true.
Well, that's a bit of an assumption, I think. You know, I don't know why he'd be interested in bidding on this if it wasn't something that he did.
I'm not saying it's something he doesn't do. I'm just saying by what I've seen online, I don't see anything about concrete. I'm sure he does concrete, yes.
Yeah.
This isn't a brain surgery job either, relative, from an engineering perspective. You dig them out, you put some stone in, you pour the concrete.
Hopefully they all
It's a
come
crap
out.
by some people, so.
And what's the time frame allotted to them?
Sounds like Tom's the engineer.
Yeah, we didn't put a timetable on it, but I'm sure we could tell them to have it done by, what's this? By the end of June, first week of July.
I think we need to correctly put out what we want done written so we get the quotes back from each person how we want them. Because right now it's just, we're getting random stuff.
It was like pulling teeth to get these 2 bids back. And these are the only 2 that came in.
Did we actually physically ask in writing for any of these bids? We got the way we asked. We didn't ask professionally, so we got it back unprofessionally, in my opinion.
Well, I'm not I don't write bid specs, so I couldn't have done that.
I'm just saying letterhead.
Those stairs have been an eyesore and a danger. I think that we need to make a decision. Michael, I respect what you're saying, that this should have been done differently. I know that we also reached out to multiple other companies that didn't respond. But if we don't make a decision soon on this, I can assure you that the lawsuit that is going to be presented to the town when somebody falls down those stairs is going to be considerably higher than even the highest bid that we have here.
Yeah.
So if we want to push this off and hope for, we're the end of May now, so we would have to give another 4 weeks. We would be into July before we would expect to be holding another vote on this. And if that's what we want to do, then I'm perfectly fine with that. I think that if we push this off any further, that we really need to close off the front of that building entirely before something happens.
I don't want to push it off. I'm just trying to determine, it almost sounded like Tom Call was maybe going to do more work than the Renaud. That's what I was assessing and what I'd probably base my decision on. Do you think that's right, Tom, that they were offering a little bit more on that upper landing and such?
That's what, my walk around with him, I did not walk around with Mr. Renaud. I didn't even see him come to the job site. I know he did, but I didn't see him there. Tom met me and we walked through the job as I saw, what needed to be done. Even talked to him about the idea of maybe narrowing up the stairs, because that was talked about at one of the select board meetings, but then you get into railing issues and going in and going out, and people with disabilities, you need that center rail too. So he was, all I know is I walked the site with him. I did not walk the site with Mr. Renaud, and I don't want to make any calls as to what he was, no pun intended, as to what he was thinking on that. But it appears, based on what he wanted to do in the landing and based on what was written, that Call was going to do a more extensive job on the top landing in addition to replacing the stairs.
All right, well, let's go a little bit. Get it over with.
I'll second your motion, Jeff.
I don't know if that was a proper motion. But
It is at 9:30 at night. That is a proper motion with a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? All right.
You know how easy that was?
What's that?
I said, see how easy that was?
You should be here and running this meeting, Jeff.
Oh, God.
All right, what else did we have? I'm trying to find my agenda.
Sign repair.
At the South School.
Okay, so we have received $1,000 from the damaging party of the sign. I sent you guys an email. We got the estimate back from, McCarthy's, and the sign was $350, and the 4x4 wooden posts with vinyl sleeves and installation was an additional $550. That seemed high to me, and I didn't quite understand how we got to that number. And they were extremely rude when I called to, maybe it's the way I ask questions, because I'm just upsetting everybody when I ask questions. So then per, I believe it was Sandy's suggestion, I called Dennis Tier. Okay. I called him. He was $50 more on the overall project. He was cheaper on the installation and more expensive on the actual sign. So my question to the board was, in fairness to the damaging party, the estimate that we got from McCarthy's included them coming down, again, putting the posts in, pouring concrete, putting vinyl, whatever, coverings over the posts and capping the posts. After looking at the installation that's over here, that is nothing more than 4x4s that are sunk into the ground with no concrete and no vinyl sleeves on them. So right off the bat, I don't think that we can, in fairness, charge that resident for replacing the additional things that were not damaged originally. So my question to the board is, if we were to present to the gentleman that was decent enough to step forward and own this up and paid us, if we were to pay to have the sign remade for $350 and he puts the sign back in, we hold the money until that sign is in. We inspect the work, we tell him exactly how it needs to be done, and then we're able to refund some of that money to them. I will say, as a punk kid that has done enough damage in this town and done my fair share of stupid things, that when a 21-year-old steps up and says, hey, I was being an idiot, here's some money, please forgive me, that to me goes a long way. So I think that my suggestion is that we show a willingness to work with him. But I'm curious what the rest of the board thinks. Jeff?
I agree. You know, for the reasons you just stated. I mean, who knows? He could be select board chair someday.
You could have it tomorrow if you want.
Yeah.
Gene?
No, so I agree, Chris.
Okay.
Yeah, I also agree. Just hang on to it till we're happy with the job, hang on to the money and
Okay,
release
Sandy?
it.
Yep, I go along with it.
Michael?
Do it.
All right,
Miss-
perfect.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I think there is an issue, though, that the sign is not guaranteed if someone else does the work. He won't guarantee the sign.
Right, and neither was the one that's hanging there right now.
Neither was what?
The sign that was damaged was not guaranteed because they didn't install it. According to the woman that was rude with me on the phone, that we, the town of Vernon, installed that sign that was there and damaged. And because we did that, there was no guarantee on that sign that was there. So again, I don't think that we can push that off on him. We can't expect more in return for what was damaged, I guess.
Okay. Yep, that's fine.
If the historians want an upgrade, they can pay for it.
It's not the toast.
What kind of guarantee do you expect when a sign's been run over? I can see the guarantee in terms of the weather but if it's run over, I don't think anybody's gonna back it.
But they're saying that if they don't come down and put the sign in, that they won't guarantee it.
Oh, so if the weather's poorly, then that's it. We're on our own.
Which, yeah, I mean, whatever. I don't really understand how that could work. So, all right, I will follow up with him, and I will make sure that I let Cindy know what's going on with that. And Heather Frost, I will send her an email as well. With that, our next meeting is, somebody help me with a calendar here.
Next Wednesday.
Oh, that's right, next Wednesday for the special meeting for the town administrator recruitment. And then we would follow that. I think we get a week off there, don't we? Do we? Maybe not. Nope, we definitely don't. So then our next meeting would be the 2nd of June. Could I please get a motion to adjourn?
No, wait.
Oh, Brana, yes.
I've been waiting all night for these 2 announcements that are not
Okay.
agenda items. Curbside pickup, curbside service at the library started today. And for more information on it, it will be, you can go to the vernonfreelibrary.org website and find out how to order books. And library curbside pickup is Tuesdays and Thursdays from 1 to 6. And the second announcement I just got today was from BDCC and Wyndham Regional Commission. The 27th, which I think is next Wednesday, from 1 to 3, there's a virtual connectivity summit webinar, and it will discuss connectivity issues. And also in late June, the WRC feasibility study, which was the broadband project study that we all participated in early March. There will be more on that. That report will come out in late June. So that's it.
Brana, in the future, by all means, stop us at, 6:45 and let us know that you want to make that announcement so you're not stuck here all night. We appreciate having you. But,
thank you.
All right, a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, I got all kinds of motions, and Jean, you got a second on that, right? Perfect.
Sure, second, yeah.
All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Good night, everybody. Thanks for being here, Rich. Appreciate you.
Good night.